So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor for today's training. Okay, so this is the Cisco Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials version 7 training. This is the second level for the CCNA track. It has 3 tracks if you're going through the Netacad, the Network Academy. So the first one is Introduction to Networking. The second is Switching, Routing, and Wireless Essentials. And the third one is Enterprise Networking Security and Automation. So we have the complete records for the CCNA level 1 is on the channel. You could like and also subscribe. So the labs for both the CCNA level 1, the 2, and the 3, they will all going to be available. So a few things we're going to be considering for the CCNA level 2 for the routing, switching, wireless essentials. There are about 16 modules in all. So we're going to be looking at basic device configuration. So don't forget, we said that for you to have your network is into about 3 parts: the end devices, the media, and the intermediary devices. So the end devices are your PC, your tablet, your printers. All of those guys are going to receive signals from each other, for instance. Then your intermediary devices are those guys that are going to help the end device connect to each other, like your router, your switches, your what else can be your intermediary device. They also have the media. So how am I going to be connecting to the end devices? Am I going to be using wireless? Am I going to be using Bluetooth? Am I going to be using copper cable, Cat5 or Cat6 cables? Am I going to be using fiber optics and whatever? So how do you connect between the end devices? So that is the media. So, but in this very first module, we're going to be looking at basic device configuration. So we're looking at those end devices. How do we configure them? So it's more of a lab module, but I'll spend time to just explain most of the concepts in module 1. Then later on, there are quite a number of the labs. You have about 31 labs for this routing and switching wireless essential course. So how do you configure SSH if you want to connect through a secure shell? How do you configure router interfaces? How do you connect, verify if you're connected to a network? That is a simple basic ICMP commands. How do you implement a SOHO, a small office home network? Then who hears the broadcast? In CCNA1, we talked about different types of communications, where we talked about the broadcast, the multicast, and the unicast. Unicast, one communication to just one PC or one device or one item, unicast. Then multicast, one to many. Then broadcast, one to all. So how do we investigate Vlan implementation? So in this module 2, this series, we're going to be looking at VLANs, right? Virtual LAN. So virtual LAN is a way you could create a quasi network, like a make-believe network. So if you have a switch and that switch is 48 ports, for instance, I could split it into, let's say, 3 or 4 or so. So I can put, let's say, IT department in one section of the switch. I can put sales, I can put marketing and whatever. So they will operate like they are 3 or 4 different switches, but I'm just using one switch. So there are several advantages to that. It could help you better manage your switch. It could help you reduce your broadcast domain. It can also help you manage security, manage access control. Take, for instance, if you want to say all of the marketing staff, you don't want them to access the internet, right? So, but you have to first put them on a VLAN, then configure those ports or those VLANs not to be able to access a particular IP address. Remember, that's the IP address for your internet. So we also look at VLAN configuration. We look at DTP, VLAN, route on the stick stick VLAN routing. We look at STP loop prevention. These are some of the labs we're going to be looking at. Some of them are going to be physical labs. Some of them are going to, you could run them on the packet tracer. So STP, that's the Just skip my memory now. If I remember, I'll let you know as I write on the training. So STP is a way you could, if you have 2-3 ports on a switch, for instance, if you need to loop, or rather, if you need to combine these 3 ports to form one, for instance, so you can increase your bandwidth. Take, for instance, you have 5 ports. Each of them are all 100 MB per second, 100 MB per second, 100 MB per second. So they are just fast Ethernet. Okay, yes, standard tree protocol. That just came to my memory now. Now, then you have maybe extra 2 that are gigabit speed ports. The point is, if I need to combine 2 or 3 of those ports and consider them as one, so I'm going to be using the standard tree protocol. Then you will talk about Ether channel. They look at DHCP, dynamic host configuration protocol. We look at Hsrp, right? The configuration guide. So Hsrp is your first hop redundancy protocol, right? So anytime you hear the word redundancy in networking, you are trying to say you don't want one single point of failure. So when we get to CCNA 3, where we start looking at what was it called? Where we start looking at enterprise networking, right? In enterprise networking, we're looking at very, very large networks. So those large networks, we will need to configure a lot of security. We'll be dealing with several end devices. So if we're going to do that, then DHCP is very important, right? We're going to be doing things like, do we want to assign IP addresses dynamically, or do we want to assign them in a static manner? So we're going to see the disadvantages, we're going to see the advantages. We're also going to look at implementing port security, configuring wireless network, troubleshooting LAN, basic router configuration, if I need to troubleshoot static and default. So those are the things we're going to be looking at, right, in this CCNA level 2, right? So IP version 4, IP version 6, we talked about that in the CCNA level 1. This is 32 bits, and IP version 6 is 128 bits. We said MAC address is 48 bits. We're going to look at wireless LAN. We're going to look at wireless network. We're going to look at Hsrp for redundancy. We're going to look at DHCP. We're going to look at Ether channel. We're going to look at spanning tree protocol, not standard, spanning tree protocol. Then we're going to look at Vlans. We're going to look at router on a stick. We're going to look at trunking. So in trunking, when you hear the word trunking in networking, you understand to say when you create your VLANs, imagine remember I said a 48 port switch, or let's say for instance, a 24 port switch, I divide it into, let's say 12. 12 is marketing, 12 is IT. Now, if you need both of those VLANs to communicate to each other, then you need to implement trunking, right? Else, they will not be able to communicate. Remember, if you do, let's say at home, you do electrical connections, you need to do trunking, you need to connect cable from one point to the other, you secure it, you trunk, you connect. Same thing applies here. So those are the things, the labs, about the 31 labs we're going to be looking at in this course. Then same thing applies for the modules. We just have 16 modules. So the labs are to concretize whatever you have learned in the module, right? So that's an introduction to an overview, what we are going to be considering in the CCNA level 2. So in the next slide, we're going to be looking at the very first module, which is basic device configuration. Thank you very much.